welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our hosts, Sri Rajgopalan, Peter V.S. Bond, and Brian Gildenberg explore how brands and retailers engage consumers in an increasingly digitally driven world. And now, here are the CPG Guys.
Hello, folks, and this episode comes to you live from the Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity, and we're proud to be here with none other than those from Kroger and Mondelez at the Kroger Cabana at the festival.
At
Brian.
the
There we go.
Cabana. Yes,
Although,
one of that in post.
next year, I believe we're going to do this on a helicopter.
You're a helicopter, Trey. You're a helicopter. I'll be there.
Want to pick which mountain? Like I see one in the distance right there. All right. So welcome, Brian. Thank you for joining me early this morning.
Yes.
And I want to welcome Cara Pratt from Kroger. Welcome. Thank you for joining me this morning.
Thanks, Trey. Happy to host you.
Welcome, Meghan, Mondelez. Happy to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Before we get started, Cara, could you take 30 seconds and tell us what you do for Kroger?
Yeah, absolutely. I lead Kroger Precision Marketing. Kroger Precision Marketing is the retail media arm of the Kroger company. We came to market 6.5 years ago. We were not the first, and we've been far from the last. Our commitment is about holding media dollars accountable and connecting with customers in the most purposeful ways. We're really looking to utilize the audience intelligence, the behavioral signals we have on some incredible shopping intelligence, and use that to help brands like Mondelez create more purposeful connections with customers and ultimately drive sales. It's been a really exciting 6.5 years with the opportunity to create the right relationships with technology partners, publisher partners, brand partners, and agency partners to bring this to life. And really, we feel like we're just getting started.
And so I think the CPG guys, aka Gildenberg and Rajagopal, see eye to eye with you because we'll hold the media dollars accountable. Not to worry at all, Cara. Meghan, welcome to the show. Can you take 30 seconds and tell the audience what you do for Mondelez?
Of course. Meghan Johnson. I run consumer experience and media across the Americas. And now, because this is the CPG Guys, you all know Mondelez, which I believe is home to some of the world's most iconic brands, from Oreo to Cliff to Sour Patch Kids. But what is consumer experience? I really oversee media investment, creative and production across our suite of brands across the Americas.
Pleasure, because I told you last night on how I did that as I called my brother who also works for Mondelez in sales and asked him, what does Meghan do for Mondelez? So I cheated. I kind of knew what you did. But we're going to jump right into the Q&A segment. How we're going to do this is going to be me first and then Brian, and we'll go back and forth. So, Cara, you ready for the first one?
Let's go.
Ready for the lob
Back
here?
and forth. We're going to grill you. This is like one of those old, those old TV shows.
I haven't seen you here prior to this year at Cannes. So you're here now, got the Cabana going. I know you have meetings all day. You've taken time out of what would arguably be an incredibly busy schedule for you and for Meghan as well. Back and forth, I'm sure, all day last 3 days, and still got all day today to go. Why this year? What's the significance of this moment for retail media? Because one of the biggest themes floating around outside of artificial intelligence is retail media.
You are correct. Very observant. This is Kroger's first time, Kroger Precision Marketing's first time here at Cannes. And candidly, roughly 12 months ago, we were reflecting on the moment that we're in within this industry, not just retailers as media influencers and advocates for change, but what this industry needs as we think about taking this next step towards more productive performant media. And it's not just about the trusted bridges that we're looking to continue to create across the publisher ecosystem and with brands. It's about really this inflection point of the organizational design and incentive adjustments that need to also take shape to really deliver on this promise. And so the conversations that we're having with our agency partners and our brand partners is really much more strategic and much more holistic than the actual investment recommendations that come in. And this is where the best brains in media and technology come. They come to be inspired. They come to connect. They come to ideate. And we've had some phenomenal conversations. But it is a bit of a tipping point and this accelerator into this recognition that retail signals can absolutely influence media investment and brand connections more purposefully than ever before. And fundamentally, we believe data and technology can create a better human connection. And we want to be a part of it. We want to be a part of those discussions. And we've had a phenomenal first year and look forward to more years to come.
So I heard two things very clearly out there. Cara just invented candidly a can. Did you catch that? we're going to quote that
putting
one.
the can in candid.
Second one she said was the people who are relevant are media and tech. Should the CPG guys be disappointed or be media?
You should not be disappointed. You should not be disappointed.
What's that? Well, that's I think press is media. So
we actually qualified as media.
You're here for a reason, Sri.
I got a free ticket. I don't care.
Over to you, Brian.
Oh yes. So hey, great to see both of you. And I like Cara. I like the phrase "inspire, connect," and the other phrase you use, which is a euphemism for stand on top of the rooftop of a hotel and have free cocktails.
We're doing that tonight.
I
have been in my hotel room before midnight every night.
Well, and that's excellent. So one of the topics that's been a big one here. Across the board is sustainability. And I also know that sustainability in the digital advertising supply chain is a huge passion point for you. I know you've made some announcements this week regarding Kroger. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with Scope 3 on that front and how you think that can change the world of precision advertising?
I would love to. Mm-hmm. And I know that ESG holistically is near and dear to Mondelez's heart and so many others. So Meghan, please build on what I share about what we've been doing. It's been a journey for us over the last 18 to 20 months or so in this recognition of the carbon footprint that media influences. As you take a step back and you think about the trillions of impressions that are getting served at any given moment, all of those impressions have a carbon exhaust that's happening. About 18, 20 months ago, Christine Foster, who leads strategy and operations for us, brought a conversation to me and talked about this opportunity we have to set a new standard and bring a new lens into the accountability of media, not just the business outcome accountability of media, but the carbon accountability of media. In recognition of the audience intelligence we have, we can curate who we should be exposing content to. We know over the last 2 years that we've been assessing that we can deploy roughly half of the impressions deliver the same sales impact. There's still carbon exhaust that happens there. So we have a relationship with Scope 3, who is really one of the leaders in this space, bringing a new lens into sustainability in media. And we're using some of their assets to help us assess and understand what is the carbon footprint that our media buying on the managed service side is delivering. When we were doing the first rounds of audits, we were already 17% lower in our carbon exhaust relative to the U.S. average. The U.S. average is 276 grams of carbon per 1,000 impressions. And we were running at 229.
Cara, may I ask how you measure that to get to 17?
Yeah, Scope 3 has their proprietary kind of algorithms that they're assessing based off of the media supply chain.
So it's an external evaluation?
It's an external evaluation that Scope 3 is leading. And Scope 3 is enabling that as a lever and influence into ad verification partners like Double Verify. A lot of agency holding companies have commitments and relationships with Scope 3. So we came out of the gates feeling pretty good, not incredibly surprised given the audience curation, but we were running 17% lower. Scope 3 gave us some optimization recommendations across the different publishers that we were buying from. And we were able to take that down to 34% less than the industry average. So we are very excited about continuing on this journey. It is a journey. The remarkable or not part of it all, you decide where you want to sit on that continuum. The business performance outcomes did not suffer.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it is an and, it is not an or. You don't need to make a choice on the sustainability footprint of media and the performance side of media. These could coexist. And, we believe that we all have this responsibility in media to do better for the planet. We can sell some products too.
How about that?
Well, I think retailers for years have, on the physical side of things, have found there's enormous synergy between environmental sustainability and, honestly, cost management, right? So much of the things that are disruptive to the environment are also things you're spending money on that you probably shouldn't be anyway. So I like the fact that kind of dovetails in an interesting way. So that's cool.
It is really nice. I mean, even as we look at Mondelez at Vision 2030, we have a pillar for sustainability that goes throughout our entire organization. Why shouldn't that really go deeper into media and the responsibility we have in this space?
Yeah, it's easy to think about the transportation and packaging side, and there's a real responsibility there. But we can't turn a blind eye to what our opportunity is as well.
And I thought getting a few Teslas for the family would solve the world's problems. Although that said, this topic didn't naturally come up in my head because what I was planning on having a chat with y'all was traditional media metrics, the evolution of it, and whether we'd go to in-store retail media. But I got to say thanks to Brian Spencer from KPM for actually alerting us to this topic and then having a good conversation with us in advance on what matters.
Yeah.
Go forward, you can be assured the CPG guys will be asking every RMN provider about the sustainability aspect of how media plays out. Actually holding them accountable as well, because this is an important topic and 3 Teslas in one household won't cut it, apparently.
and I do think it's also important to reinforce the fact that this is not a new topic for you. I mean, we've talked about this topic for a while, and I know it's not just a statement for you guys. It's a real part of how you're looking at how to do business.
The one, Brian, that intrigues me a lot is as in-store retail media gets more prominent. It's early days, but the role of feature and display and the 50-year-old cardboard cutouts we'd have all over the store, especially from a display standpoint, end cap standpoint, non-traditional displays like lobby, impulse, things of that nature. If you move to a screen, does that change the carbon footprint? And I'm guessing it does for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to see how those things play out. But Meghan, let's jump over to you.
Sure.
Give us more details about your role. I mean, this is an important role you play for Mondelez and for the industry, because what you do at Mondelez, being such a large manufacturer, will actually lead the industry to hopefully follow. So you came to Cannes, what was your expectations? What kind of innovation were you looking to see over here? And what's your big takeaway so far?
Sure. So in my role for consumer experience, it was birthed out of media investment. So we used to be a team that was incredibly focused on media investment. Really, how can we reach the most people for the lowest cost? Now, that's great, but that's only one part of the equation. And very rapidly, we understood that we needed to shift, and that effectiveness was a huge lever that we were not pulling. We were leaving on the table. What that meant was that there were some really critical things that needed to sit under the same umbrella that had really been displaced in legacy parts of our organization. Things like creative, things like data, how we were thinking about application of technology, now like Gen AI, to really help grow for the future. So what that enabled us to do was to break down a lot of the silos that we had internally, to really look across the ecosystem and start to think about proper full funnel planning, proper full ecosystem that allowed us to view both brand through to conversion and really think about what is that experience a consumer has as they go through their as they go through their days, as they go and experience us through their different touch points. So that has been really significant in both what we've needed to do as an organization to change culturally, to take advantage of a lot of these things, but also how we can apply things like data to really get smarter and better about the choices that we're making and where we spend our dollars.
Awesome. Excellent. And then obviously as the experience definition changes and what you're trying to accomplish changes, I guess the metrics have to change with that too, right? So how are you thinking about performance measurement, and how are you using that to evaluate not just your advertising, but also the partners that you're working with, and how is that shifting a bit?
Yeah, listen, we're in Cannes, so I'll give you a cliche. But
please do. So it's a canned answer.
It's a canned answer.
Candidly a canned answer. You got that.
Every one of my dollars has to perform. And that's whether it is going towards creating a sale or removing friction towards creating a sale with a consumer, or whether it's going towards building a brand. And I think what is incredibly important and what has been a key topic at Cannes this year is ensuring that every dollar is either going towards growth of the business or even more so going towards better learning on how to grow the business.
Okay.
So what has been key are conversations on measurement as we think about cross-platform measurement. Things like application of Gen AI, which, immediately today, there are some areas that we're doing a lot of test and learns, but having conversations about where that is going to go in the future and what does that mean when, we're going to be able to get to a digital shelf and have dynamic shifts and changes on the creative, on the copy that consumers get to see.
Hey, can I ask you a follow-up on that? Because I hadn't heard anybody articulate as clearly before the combination of performance measurement but learning measurement as well. How do you think about learning measurement? How do you capture that? Like, what's the
we're an organization that has a strong legacy with MMM, which really looks backwards, right?
Sure.
And we view it every has some opportunities, but we do it on an annual basis.
Do you sacrifice a goat to it and pray and hope that it gives you an answer?
That's right. But what we've really been pushing for is really getting deeper, more granular, more robust measurements. We're including things like trade, which we haven't done before, but this layer of adding in the test and learn approach to ensure that we're really learning in near real time.
Yeah, and you were talking about it, and I think one of the really interesting points in there is that I do think people forget to measure time as one of the variables that's so critical. Like, you can have the right answer, but if it comes at the wrong time, and I think that's been one of the issues that people have had with MMMs over the last. The MMM might be right, but by the time it gets you an answer, what it's telling you is too late to be useful.
That's
so
right.
That's
right.
cool. So they're having their own podcast over there. So back to you, Shrey.
We're just enjoying the rain droplets. So as we,
why did you order better weather?
Yes,
it's the carbon footprint.
If we don't stop advertising, we're all going to get really hot.
The rain was necessary to cool it down, I guess. So it's kind of fun to do it outside with the rain. I was expecting the weather forecast certainly didn't call for it, but as amateur as this may sound or trivial, well, it's an indication of what the carbon footprint actually means. So it's kind of cool.
Look at you grasping profundity from the rain.
So, Cara, over to you. Accountability. Real word. Retailers are now bringing purchase signals, POS stuff directly to other platforms. One example that we are aware of on the CPG guys is your team at KPN announcing new measurement and activation capabilities with Meta. Tell us about the kinds of capabilities being unlocked through social media partnerships with retailers. What do you see around the industry? What's going on at KPN?
Yeah, I love that question. When we announced Kroger Precision Marketing to the marketplace in October of 2017, we did so with a commitment to accountability. And it was really heavily anchored in performance. Social channels have been some of the most difficult channels to really deliver against that commitment. The log data is much more constrained typically and traditionally, and fundamentally we believe every channel needs to be held at the same level of transparency and accountability. So we've been hard at work over the years and engaging in very deliberate conversations to change that reality of the past as we look forward. Just yesterday, we announced an extended relationship with Meta with making sure that we can deploy. Thanks. Thank you. With making sure that we can deploy and activate with more conversion level campaigns and doing that through personalized product and catalog feeds. And then being able to make sure that we can thread that through to understand the e-com impact, the online impact of purchase very succinctly. And we're in beta mode with the wider advanced analytics to make sure the omni understanding of any viewable impression on Meta, we understand what is the true impact. And we can start to layer in the same level of performance metrics, household penetration, lift, incrementality, et cetera, that we do for the rest of the portfolio. No channel can be left behind in this space on accountability, and it's just commitment that we continue to have. We're excited about this next layer. We've had relationships running awareness and consideration campaigns with Meta for years. This conversion component is that next layer, and then we will bring the same level of transparency to the forefront. Holistically, it's been really refreshing to see so many different publisher partners recognize that they can't sit on the sidelines. There's nowhere to hide. To Meg's point, to Meg's point, you are being held accountable for every dollar you invest, no matter where you invest it. You have to feel very good about the performance layer of advertising, and all channels need to be held to a performance expectation. And so we think this is just an important responsibility that retailers can bring forward and shine lights on behalf of brands.
It's huge, and it has knock-on effect too. I mean, partnerships like this really help us to elevate the conversations and the KPIs we're helping to drive. Now we ensure that we are having conversations on setting business KPIs. How are we first going to understand our business challenge? Then let's work back and understand the ecosystem and media that needs to support that development. Having that level of attribution, really being able to connect into conversion, these are things that we'll be able to really see driving short-term sales as well as that longer-term brand relevancy.
Well, and sorry, sure, go ahead.
One of the observations in the last year, I would say since April of last year when SNAP and EBT dollars dried up in the United States, and is the sudden change in volume pressure that came by. And to me, how a brand can counter that volume pressure is simply not focusing on lower funnel conversion like they have been with search, but to actually do upper funnel acquisition. For me, it's a moment in the last year that brands, I don't know if other brands have, I'd love to ask you that. Meghan, are y'all at Mondelez now focusing through retail media on full funnel versus lower funnel?
Yes, absolutely. So it's funny because with my background, we thought of it the exact opposite way, where we always focused on sort of awareness driving activities. Now with the potential to bring down into consideration. So where we've been meeting, and I partner very closely with Steve McGowan at Mondelez, is really to help us understand full funnel. We see the value that partners like Kroger bring to the table in terms of retail data. And being able to layer that data onto our media buys means that we can create those ecosystems that truly gives us a competitive advantage, we believe, in, again, both brand building and in maximizing sales today.
We've talked a lot over the last few days about brand building and sales activation and the blurring that's going on. And I love that you talked about retail data and that retail data layer that can transcend all channels, because that is, when we think about, for media to be more performant, we've got to go back and think about the starting point of the plan. And that plan's being built off briefing docs of the Mondelez team, two partners, and it starts with audience planning against the situation that that brand is facing. And we fundamentally believe that until the planning side changes, the buying side won't change. And so that's where it's been phenomenal to have agency partners recognize this opportunity and need, right, to not get left behind, to make sure commerce is at the table, and commerce is at the table not just for retail media on commerce websites, but the role that retail data can influence across any invested dollar.
And observation, because I think it was interesting to hear the way Sri processed the problem, which is that we need to start thinking about top of funnel, because Shri's been in sales for a really long time. And you're like, we were thinking about top of funnel on the media side. We need to, and it was just interesting to see the whole holistic element of it trying to come together a little bit. I think the other thing you said that was, there's a number of other things, but one of the big ones that you two have just been talking about is the idea that it's the business case first and then the measurement that supports the business case. And I think one of the things, as an observation that's sometimes deeply broken about the digital media ecosystem in general, is that the measurement then dictates the business case. So we make important what we can measure, we don't measure what's important. And I think that this type of conversation is interesting, but if we'll drill down a little bit more, I mean, we're joking about, the blurring here, but you've got a retailer here talking about, a meta campaign that you're running, which historically would have been a very different part of your brain and a very different budget that it comes out of. Can you talk a little about how media activity, brand building, and traditional sort of sales activities are starting to blur together from a campaign point of view, and then what that means to you as an organization as well?
And Brian and Meghan, that's why I actually bring it up as full funnel. Because in a 30-year career on the selling side versus the marketing side, brand building side, every penny of trade dollars, both on the retail side as well as on the brand side, was kind of accountable. And here we are talking about accountability for media like 30 years later, right? That's why I asked the question about full funnel.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, Mondelez is a snacking company, and snacking is inherently personal. It's something you eat, it's something you share with your friends and family. And so we tend to go very, very deep on the type of textured insights we can find as we're building out a campaign. So we think about animal crackers. We know that 37% of people eat the heads up of their animal crackers first. I mean, 37%.
Wow. 37% of America. I'm so Next week on animal crackers.
But when you take an insight like that and you can pull it into a campaign, what consumers really expect, what they want, is something that is personalized enough.
Yes.
And what this allows us to do is really to connect the dots across from something that we would have traditionally seen again as sort of brand or awareness driving, and use that type of thinking, that type of ideation, and bring it through to a campaign that actually goes to maximize conversion. So that becomes incredibly important because consumers can't see the complexity. They shouldn't be able to see the complexity that we have
care if what they're seeing is something that's going to drive performance or brand.
Yeah.
And they never should care. That's a bad thing. We're failing if that's true.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we need to ensure that as we're talking about media placement of dollars, as we're talking about media investment, that it pulls through into the content, it pulls through into the creative, and we really have an ecosystem that our consumers can bounce around. And at the end of the day, then, our job is to make sure that we're as easy to buy as possible and that we're as top of mind as possible for it.
Well, and that's a huge point because I think so much of the conversation around personalization in media today is what I would call performative personalization. It's like, hey, look at us, we can personalize this for you. And I think it's interesting too because Kroger for years has been really good at sort of subtle personalization. So, I mean, you go, we're doing personalized marketing for the internet was invented. So you know, mailing individual circulars to people's houses that were based on their purchase preference. You didn't have like here is your insert name here. So you just did it, right? And the personalization was seamless and it was invisible. The actual personalization process was invisible. It was the outcome that mattered.
You think about what consumers want. Consumers want convenience. Consumers expect convenience.
Yeah.
And to have convenience, you need to bring relevance to the content that you're serving, the experiences you're serving, when and how you show up, with what message, with what creative. It all has to lock back in strategically. Yeah. Consumers want convenience that's driven by relevance. Personalization is the fuel it. And the only way that you can deliver personalization is if you have a strong data spine that can help you understand behavior holistically. Yeah. And that chain is a critical chain to deliver against consumer expectations.
Well, I think it's a good way to think about personalization too. It's just that consumers, as much as they want convenience, I think the real issue there sometimes is that consumers hate inconvenience. They don't want nobody. I mean, if you ask somebody if they want personalization, sure, why not? But like in real life, what they hate is the deleterious effect of unpersonalized advertising. Right? When I get something that's not relevant to me. When I just bought a washing machine, and then for a month I get ads for a washing machine. It's like, no, I'm not collecting these. I want one. So
I'm going to allow this last one over to you, to both of you. So maybe Cara, you can go first.
Sure.
So with all of the convergence happening in media and commerce, if you were a brand head, what do you think brands should go forward with?
Listen, I fundamentally believe we're just at the beginning, but for brands to look forward to this opportunity that sits right ahead, brands need to think differently about how they organize. They need to think differently about how they incent teams, how they incent agencies. They need to think differently about the relationships that they're curating with publishers. Fundamentally, the opportunity that sits in front of us will be constrained if there isn't some change within organizational design, organizational structure, organizational incentives, and the relationships across this phenomenal media supply chain.
But in an era, Cara, where most marketers are trained in MBA marketing class 5104 with Philip Kotler's 4 Ps, how do you do that? It is a challenging industry that I've encountered for
specific reference.
It could be marketing 6104. I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, let's teach it. Let's teach it. Here's the reality. We have to break past paradigms and past structures and past designs. Like, it's not just naturally going to happen because what we have heard very directly from brand teams is, and in C-suites, is where retailers are coming forward with this new signal and looking to kind of disrupt past behaviors. There's a first perception of a threat of control, loss of control. And it's not about losing control. It's about enabling marketers to leverage the intelligence of their craft and creativity and commitments to building brands in an even stronger way. Candidly, what you saw in the early days of taking shopper marketing and taking e-commerce teams and smashing them together with Omni was a baby step. It was not going to change the needle with respect to meaningfully disrupting the opportunity that sits in front of us for brands. Now you're starting to see folks do away with that and literally suck all of Omni and Shopper straight up into the brand teams for a single P&L ownership. Those are the types of structural changes that'll drive different behaviors, it's hard. It is hard. It's gonna make people uncomfortable, but we believe that that's the next step that needs to happen to really unleash the power of what we can do here.
Megan, we'd love to hear your opinion as a brand practitioner.
Sure. What we do and why we do it hasn't changed. It is completely in the how. And it is up to us, and Cara is incredibly correct. We have to break a lot of the legacy processes, people that we've had in place. We as practitioners are responsible for also upskilling ourselves, our teams, and our colleagues on how we can leverage things like data, like tech, really to enable better consumer experiences. Because at the end of the day, our job is the same. We need to build brands, we need to sell product. How we do that is what has significantly changed and what we need to continue to push to make happen. I think in order to do that, it is a level of capability growth as we really understand and get our hands on what the opportunities are here. As we start to really understand and plan for business outcomes versus really looking at it from a more of a siloed sort of media outcome type of view. And by breaking our structures, by really looking at, agile processes, getting more comfortable with, some of these test, learn, scale frameworks that help us get more of a real-time measurement versus relying on some of our legacy, very long-term, looking back in the mirror. We've got to ensure that we are creating the future, because what got us here in the past will not be what gets us into that next level of growth.
I don't want to take pot shots just for those in brand marketing, but it's a two-way street. Like commercial sales folks, the ones that call on merchandising, and be equally guilty of knocking brand builders on coming over and working with merchandisers to kind of build the best outcome at the shelf. So that needs to change very much. So I'd implore commercial sales teams to go up and let that flow funnel happen automatically. Cara rightfully pointed out, the industry is kind of taken a turn towards the early days, but the good news, the industry's taken a turn. Brian, any closing thoughts?
Sure, yeah, I think there were, one, thank you both for your time and for a fascinating conversation. I think there were, there's 3 or 4 big buckets I think we hit today that are really critical. The first of which is the importance of sustainability in the digital advertising chain, and the Scope 3 work that Kroger's been leading, and obviously Mondelez is a huge participant in all things sustainability. That idea that sustainability isn't just a talking point, but it's a business objective, and it's a business objective that actually has real P&L implications, not just sort of nice to have implications. I think is a critical one. And embedding that thinking into how you approach the problem of digital marketing could really change a lot of this. I think the whole conversation that we've heard today about the coming together, obviously, of what used to be a media world and a more traditional commercial or retail world, and the specific ways in which you're blurring that together, the specific ways in which you're talking about, Cara, you talked about, the integrated P&L and how important that is to everybody. And, Megan, I think the work that you're doing at Mondelez to really embrace that whole process is a big one. I really do think the idea that you measure the learning, not just the outcomes, is just one of the most powerful things I've heard this week, in terms of I really need to understand that this is a learning curve, and that we have to give ourselves credit for what we've learned, rather than just doing A/B testing and figuring out what worked and what doesn't. And I think the final piece, which is I think essential to this whole notion of integrated planning, is you've got to start with the business case first, then figure out what the levers are that achieve the business objective. So how do we get people to eat the heads off the apple? And then once we do that, then figure out what the metrics are that are relevant to support that business case, and understand that a different business case will have different levers, and then may have a different collection of measurements as an outcome. I think there's too much of a quest for the holy grail, like the one answer for the measure. And I just don't think that's ever made any sense, right? Like you've got to figure out how to measure what it is you're trying to do, but that involves real clarity around what you're trying to do. And I think that's actually often the hardest conversation for brands and retailers to have. What are we actually trying to accomplish? So that started with the plan first and then just working that. So,
thank you, Brian. Let me remind our audience you can find all of our content simply by going to a web browser typing www.cpgguys.com. Yes, that easy. And if you or someone you know wants to join the podcast and join this conversation we have with the industry, please drop us an email at contact@cpgguys.com. Again, that's contact@cpgguys.com. To all our followers on LinkedIn, we cannot thank you enough. Without you, the show doesn't exist. All the clicks, likes, comments, polls, DMs, we do appreciate it because you shape the show. And do leave us a rating on the top right navigation bar on top of the website. Why that's important is the rating tells us how we're doing. And your review helps us know what conversations and what guests to bring, such as Cara and Meghan. Thank you both. I know this is a super busy week for both of you. Flown all the way from the United States, 5,000 miles each. I can't say thank you enough for joining us live here on the show.
You bet. We appreciate you swinging in, and maybe we should go teach that 601 class.
Yeah, that's it again. 6402, yeah. So,
Candidly, I can. Bye, Ken.
Very well, buddy.
Brian, thank you as always.
Yeah, thank you, Sri. So, thanks for the invite.
A reminder to our audience that we're speaking to Cara Pratt, SVP at Kroger Precision Marketing, and Meghan Johnson, Head of Consumer Experience and Media at Mondelez. That's a wrap of this episode. We'll see you soon on another episode of CPG Guys.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.